You know what fascinates me? The difference between success and failure isn't usually some grand thing. It's not about who was born with more talent. It's not about who had the better start in life. It's about something much simpler. It's about who shows up day after day, regardless of how they feel. That's discipline. And discipline will beat motivation every single time. I want to talk to you today about something that changed my life. It wasn't a secret formula. It wasn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It was understanding that discipline beats motivation every single time. You see, I used to be like most people. I'd wait until I felt motivated to do something important. I'd wait for that spark, that feeling, that surge of energy, and sometimes it would come. I'd have these amazing days where I'd accomplish more in 24 hours than I had in the previous week. But then what happened? The feeling would fade, and I'd be right back where I started, waiting for motivation to strike again like lightning. That's when my mentor, Earl Shove, taught me something I never forgot. He said, "Jim, don't wait to be motivated. Waiting is a poor strategy for success." And he was right. The moment I understood that discipline, not motivation, was the key to success, everything changed for me. Let's talk about motivation first. What is it really? Motivation is that feeling you get when you're excited about something. It's that internal spark that makes you want to take action. It's the emotion that drives you forward, at least temporarily. And motivation feels wonderful. When you're motivated, you feel unstoppable. You have energy, you have clarity, you have drive. And in those moments of high motivation, you can accomplish remarkable things. But here's the problem with motivation. It's unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days you wake up and feel like you can conquer the world. Other days you can barely get out of bed. Motivation is fickle. It's inconsistent. It's emotion. And that's why building your success on motivation is like building your house on sand. The first strong wind, the first challenge, the first obstacle, and your foundation starts to crumble. I've watched thousands of people over the years start businesses, begin diets, launch savings plans, all fueled by motivation. And you know what happens to most of them? Within weeks, sometimes even days, that initial motivation fades. And when it does, so does their progress. You can't rely on motivation because motivation isn't a strategy, it's a feeling. And feelings change, they fluctuate, they're unpredictable. Now let's contrast that with discipline. What is discipline, really? Discipline is doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is showing up every day, not just on the days when you're excited. Discipline is following through on your commitments, especially the ones you make to yourself. Discipline isn't about feeling, it's about doing, it's about action, it's about consistency, and that's why discipline will always beat motivation in the long run. I learned this lesson early in my business career. There were plenty of days when I didn't feel like making those sales calls. There were plenty of mornings when I didn't feel like getting up early to read and study. There were plenty of evenings when I didn't feel like reviewing my goals and planning for the next day, but I did it anyway. Not because I was motivated, but because I was disciplined. I understood that success isn't about what you do occasionally. It's about what you do consistently. Look at any successful person in any field, business, sports, arts, education, and you'll find discipline at the core of their success. The champion athlete who trains when others are sleeping. The successful entrepreneur who works on their business when others are watching TV. The accomplished musician who practices when others are partying. These people aren't always motivated. They have the same ups and downs as everyone else. But they have something that sets them apart. Discipline. Take Warren Buffett, for example. Do you think he wakes up every morning feeling motivated to read financial reports and annual statements? Probably not. But he does it anyway. He's been doing it for decades. That's discipline. Or consider someone like Stephen King, who writes 2,000 words every single day, including holidays. Do you think he always feels like writing? Of course not. But he does it anyway. That's discipline. Or look at someone like Serena Williams, who trains relentlessly year after year. You think she always feels like pushing her body to the limit? I doubt it. But she does it anyway. That's discipline. This brings me to what I call the motivation trap. This is the belief that you need to feel motivated before you take action. It's the idea that the feeling comes first and the action follows. But that's backward. The truth is, action comes first and the feeling follows. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. I see so many people fall into this trap. They say things like, I'm just not motivated right now, or I'm waiting until I feel ready, or I need to get inspired first. And while they're waiting for motivation to strike, life is passing them by. Opportunities are passing them by. Success is passing them by. Our culture doesn't help with this. We're bombarded with messages telling us that we should feel good before we do something, that we should be excited, energized, passionate. The self-help industry, which I'm a part of, sometimes contributes to this problem by focusing too much on how to get motivated and not enough on how to stay disciplined. The reality is, if you wait until you feel like doing something, you may be waiting forever. If you wait until you feel like saving money, you may never build wealth. If you wait until you feel like exercising, you may never get fit. If you wait until you feel like working on your business, you may never succeed. Waiting for motivation is a losing strategy. It's a form of procrastination dressed up as self-awareness. It's an excuse, not a plan. So how do we build discipline? How do we develop this critical skill that leads to success in every area of life? Well, like any muscle, discipline grows stronger with use. You don't build physical strength by thinking about lifting weights. You build it by actually lifting weights, starting with what you can handle and gradually increasing over time. The same is true for discipline. You build it by taking small, consistent actions day after day until those actions become habits, until they become automatic, until they become who you are. Start with something small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. That approach leads to burnout, not discipline. Instead, choose one area where you want to be more disciplined and focus on that. Maybe it's getting up 30 minutes earlier each day. Maybe it's making 3 sales calls before lunch. Maybe it's saving 10% of every dollar you earn. Maybe it's walking for 20 minutes each evening. Whatever it is, make it specific, make it measurable, and make it doable. Then commit to doing it every day for 30 days, whether you feel like it or not. This is key. Your commitment must be to the action, not to the feeling. You're not committing to feel like doing it. You're committing to actually do it regardless of how you feel. After 30 days, something interesting happens. The action becomes easier. It becomes more natural. It starts to become part of who you are. And that's when discipline begins to transform into habit. But here's where so many people go wrong. They try to change too much too soon. They try to go from zero to hero overnight. They try to completely transform their morning routine, their work habits, their exercise regimen, their diet, and their financial practices all at once. And what happens? They get overwhelmed, they get exhausted, they get discouraged, and they quit. This is what I call the compound effect. Just as money compounds over time when you invest it regularly, discipline compounds over time when you practice it consistently. Each disciplined action builds on the one before it, creating a momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. But you have to start small. You have to break discipline down into manageable parts. You have to focus on progress, not perfection. I'm reminded of the story of the stone cutter. He hammers at a rock perhaps 100 times without seeing any effect. Then on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. It wasn't that final blow that did it. It was all the blows that came before. Now, let's talk about how discipline plays out in daily life. Because discipline isn't just a concept, it's a practice. It's something you do. not something you know. Let's start with your morning routine. How you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. The most successful people I know have disciplined morning routines. They get up at the same time every day, not just on work days. They have a set sequence of activities that prepare their mind, body, and spirit for the day ahead. For me, that means getting up at 5:30 a.m., spending time in quiet reflection, reviewing my goals, reading something educational, and planning my day. Do I always feel like doing this? Of course not. There are plenty of mornings when I'd rather stay in bed, but I do it anyway, because I'm not driven by how I feel. I'm driven by what I want to achieve. Then there are work habits. The discipline of focused work is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable in our distracted world. The ability to sit down, turn off notifications, and concentrate on a single task for an extended period is a competitive advantage. I learned early in my career to block time for important tasks and protect that time fiercely. No interruptions, no distractions, just focused effort on the activities that move the needle. Again, not because I always feel like it, but because I know it's necessary for success. Financial discipline is another area where the contrast between motivation and discipline is stark. Many people get motivated to save money or invest when they read a book or attend a seminar. But how many follow through consistently? Very few. Financial success isn't about occasional bold moves. It's about consistent small actions. It's about saving a portion of every dollar you earn, no matter how small. It's about living below your means, not at or above them. It's about making investment decisions based on principles, not emotion. I remember when I started my first savings plan, it wasn't much, just a few dollars a week. But I was consistent. I didn't raid that account when I saw something I wanted to buy. I didn't skip a week because I didn't feel like it. I stayed disciplined, and over time, those small amounts grew into significant savings. Health discipline follows the same pattern. It's not about crash diets or intense workout programs that you can't sustain. It's about consistent, moderate actions that add up over time. It's about eating foods that nourish your body, not just please your palate. It's about moving your body regularly, not just when you feel energetic. It's about getting adequate sleep, not just when you're exhausted. It's about managing stress, not just when you're overwhelmed. These aren't exciting practices. They're not trendy. They're not glamorous. But they work, and they work because they don't rely on motivation. They rely on discipline. But what happens when discipline meets challenge? Because make no mistake, there will be challenges. There will be obstacles. There will be days when everything seems to go wrong. There will be seasons of life that test your resolve. This is where the difference between motivation and discipline becomes most apparent. Motivation crumbles in the face of significant challenges. It's like a fair weather friend, present when things are good, absent when things get tough. Discipline, on the other hand, persists. It endures, it continues, not because it feels good, it often doesn't, but because it's a commitment, not a feeling. I think about my friend who lost everything in a business venture gone wrong. He had every reason to give up, to quit, to retreat. There was no motivation left. The dream that had fueled his initial enthusiasm was in ashes. But what did he do? He got up early the next day just like always. He reviewed his goals just like always. He made his calls just like always. He didn't feel like it. He wasn't motivated. But he was disciplined. And that discipline carried him through the darkest time of his professional life. Or I think about another friend who faced a health crisis. The diagnosis was devastating. The treatment was brutal. There were days when she could barely get out of bed. Motivation was not just low, it was non-existent. But discipline kept her going. The discipline to follow her doctor's instructions, even when she didn't feel like it. The discipline to do her physical therapy exercises, even when they were painful. the discipline to maintain a positive outlook, even when circumstances suggested otherwise. These are extreme examples, but they illustrate a critical point. Discipline is most valuable precisely when motivation is most absent. It's easy to take action when you feel like it. Anyone can do that. The real test of character, the real measure of your commitment, is what you do when you don't feel like it. And here's the thing about discipline through adversity. It doesn't just get you through the challenge. It transforms you in the process. You come out on the other side stronger, more resilient, more capable than before. The person who relies on motivation never experiences this transformation. They retreat when challenges arise. They wait for better circumstances. They hope for the return of positive feelings. And in doing so, they miss the growth that comes from pushing through difficulty. Now, I'm not saying motivation has no place in your life. It absolutely does. Motivation can be the spark that ignites the fire of action. It can provide the initial push that gets you moving in the right direction. Remember, I'm not against motivation. I'm a motivational speaker, for goodness sake. I believe in the power of inspiration. I've seen how a motivational talk, book, or video can change someone's perspective and prompt them to take action they wouldn't have taken otherwise. For example, when you're feeling motivated to improve your health, don't just go for a run. Use that motivation to create a workout schedule that you'll follow whether you feel like it or not. Use it to prepare healthy meals in advance so you can eat well even on days when you don't feel like cooking. Use it to find a workout partner who will hold you accountable when your internal drive wanes. In other words, use motivation to build systems that don't rely on mood. Use the energy of motivation to establish the structures of discipline. This is how motivation and discipline can work together. Motivation providing the initial spark, discipline providing the consistent fuel. Motivation gets you started, discipline keeps you going. But make no mistake, if you have to choose between the two, choose discipline every time. Because a person with discipline but no motivation will accomplish far more than a person with motivation but no discipline. The disciplined person will show up every day, do what needs to be done, and make steady progress. The motivated but undisciplined person will start strong, fade quickly, and ultimately achieve very little. I've been teaching these principles for decades, and one question I often get is how to teach discipline to others, to children, to employees, to team members. It's a great question because discipline isn't just valuable for individuals. It's valuable for families, organizations, communities. The first and most important way to teach discipline is to model it. Children learn more from what you do than from what you say. Employees take their cues from leaders' actions, not their words. If you want others to be disciplined, you must be disciplined first. Show the young people in your life what it looks like to keep commitments, especially those you make to yourself. Let them see you reading when you plan to read, exercising when you plan to exercise, working when you plan to work, even when you don't feel like it. Second, teach discipline by breaking it down into simple, manageable parts. Don't overwhelm others with expectations of perfect discipline in all areas at once. Focus on one area, one habit, one practice at a time. With my own children, I started with simple disciplines, making their beds each morning, completing homework before play, saving a portion of their allowance. These weren't big things, but they established the pattern of discipline that would serve them well in bigger things later. Third, recognize and reinforce disciplined behavior when you see it. Don't just take it for granted. Acknowledge it, celebrate it. Not with lavish praise or excessive rewards that create external motivation, but with specific recognition that reinforces the value of the discipline itself. I noticed you got up and went for your run even though it was raining. That kind of discipline will serve you well. I saw that you stayed late to finish that project even though you could have left it until tomorrow That's the kind of commitment that sets you apart. Simple acknowledgments like these reinforce the value of discipline and encourage its continuation. Teaching discipline to others is one of the greatest gifts you can give them. It's more valuable than money, more lasting than material possessions. It's a gift that keeps giving throughout their lives, in every area of their life. And that brings me to the rewards of discipline, because make no mistake, discipline is challenging. It requires effort. It demands sacrifice. But it also brings rewards that far outweigh its costs. I remember when I first started teaching wealth-building principles. Some people would get excited about the potential, but only a few would follow through with the discipline required. Years later, I would run into them again. Without fail, the ones who had been disciplined were in a much stronger financial position than those who had not, regardless of their starting points or income levels. The relationship rewards may be less obvious, but are no less significant. The discipline to keep your word, to show up consistently, to listen attentively, to respond thoughtfully, rather react emotionally. These practices build trust, deepen connections, and create lasting bonds. I've watched marriages flourish or fail based largely on the discipline of the partners involved. Not their initial feelings for each other, not their compatibility, not their circumstances, but their discipline to work on the relationship consistently, even when it's difficult, even when they don't feel like it. Health rewards are both immediate and long-term. The discipline of regular exercise, balanced nutrition, adequate sleep, and stress management pays dividends in energy, mood, and capacity today, and in longevity and quality of life tomorrow. I've had the privilege of living long enough to see the stark contrast between my friends who maintain health disciplines throughout their lives and those who did not. The difference in their quality of life in later years is dramatic and direct evidence of the power of discipline over time. Career advancement is another area where discipline shows its value. The discipline to continuously learn, to consistently perform at a high level, to reliably deliver on commitments. These practices lead to recognition, responsibility, and reward in the workplace. I've seen people with modest talents but strong discipline rise to levels that more talented but less disciplined individuals never reach. Why? Because over time, discipline beats talent when talent isn't disciplined. But perhaps the greatest reward of discipline is who you become in the process of practicing it. Discipline doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. It transforms your character. It shapes your identity. The person who exercises discipline in small things becomes capable of exercising discipline in big things. The person who keeps commitments to themselves becomes trustworthy in their commitments to others. The person who persists through difficulty develops resilience that serves them in every area of life. In other words, the rewards of discipline aren't just what you get. They're who you become. And who you become affects everything else in your life. So where does this leave us? What's the takeaway from this discussion of discipline versus motivation? Let me suggest a few key points to remember. First, don't wait for motivation. Start with discipline. Take action first, and the feelings will follow. Don't make your actions dependent on your emotions. Make your emotions serve your actions. Second, start small but be consistent. Don't try to transform your entire life overnight. Choose one area, one habit, one practice, and commit to it fully. Let that success build your capacity for discipline in other areas. Third, use motivation strategically. When you feel motivated, use that energy to establish systems and habits that will sustain you when motivation fades. Don't waste motivation on temporary efforts. Invest it in lasting discipline. Fourth, anticipate and prepare for challenges. Know that there will be days, even seasons, when discipline is especially difficult. Have strategies in place for those times. accountability partners, reminders of your why, simplified versions of your disciplines that you can fall back on when full compliance isn't possible. Fifth, focus on progress, not perfection. Discipline isn't about never failing. It's about getting back up when you do. It's about consistency over time, not flawlessness at each moment. And finally, remember that discipline is a practice, not a destination. It's something you do, not something you achieve. It's a lifelong commitment to showing up, doing what matters, and following through, regardless of how you feel in the moment. The choice between discipline and motivation isn't really a choice at all. Motivation is something that happens to you. Discipline is something you choose. Motivation is passive. Discipline is active. Motivation is occasional. Discipline is consistent. And in the end, it's not motivation that will determine your success in business, relationships, health, or any other area of life. It's discipline. The discipline to do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. So let me challenge you. Don't leave here today simply feeling motivated. Use that motivation to establish one discipline in your life that will move you toward your goals. Make it specific, make it measurable, then commit to that discipline for the next 30 days, regardless of how you feel. When you don't feel like doing it, do it anyway. When you're tired, do it anyway. When you're busy, do it anyway. When you have a perfectly legitimate excuse to skip it, do it anyway. Because that's what discipline is. It's doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. It's following through on your commitments, especially the ones you make to yourself. And if you do that, if you choose discipline over motivation, consistency over intensity, long-term commitment over short-term enthusiasm, you'll be astounded by what you can achieve. Not overnight, but over time. Not in dramatic bursts, but in steady progress. Not in ways that others will immediately notice, but in ways that will fundamentally change your life and the lives of those around you. Discipline beats motivation every time. Not because motivation isn't powerful, it is, but because discipline endures when motivation fades. Discipline persists when challenges arise. Discipline delivers when circumstances change. So choose discipline, practice discipline, become disciplined, and watch as that simple choice, that daily practice, that core value transforms everything else in your life. That's my message to you today. Not just to motivate you, but to challenge you. Not just to inspire you, but to equip you. Not just to make you feel good, but to help you do good, consistently, reliably, disciplinedly. Because in the end, that's what will make the difference in your life. Not how you feel on your best days, but what you do on your worst days. Not the heights of your motivation, but the consistency of your discipline. Choose discipline over motivation every day in every area, without exception, and I promise you it will be one of the best choices you ever make.